Hello and welcome to another weekly update. I've come outside today because little one is sleeping, so hopefully you can still hear me okay. Plenty of interesting things to talk about again this week. So getting right into it, big news about SharePoint Framework 1.11 or 1.11, 1.11. I guess 1.11, even though it's technically incorrect. But anyway, comes with some enhancements for writing SharePoint Framework stuff to Microsoft Teams. So the SharePoint Framework has been around for a little while. It's been a really popular way of helping people sort of extend not just SharePoint but across all of Microsoft 365 and make these kind of customized experiences that are fit for purpose for specific company needs or branding or whatever else it is, just to kind of help people's productivity and help them get stuff done. And there's already been some stuff you can do with Teams. Tabs specifically have been quite easy to enable with the framework, but now there's even more stuff now. It makes it kind of easier to do task modules and messaging extensions as well, which is really interesting. Being able to quickly take a messaging extension that's a SharePoint kind of part or framework construct, that's really interesting. So yeah, I think that's kind of cool. It's interesting to see it now. There's some sessions actually from Build a couple of weeks ago that cover some of this stuff, just not all of it, because some of this is quite new. And it's coming sort of soon. It's coming to AppSource as well. So yeah, this is all good. If you're into SharePoint Framework, then this is good for you because it enables and lights up more things you can do with Teams. If you're not into SharePoint Framework, it's worth taking a look. Even if you've never done anything with SharePoint before, it's a nice kind of quick way of getting going with something sort of straight away without a load of setup, and it kind of cuts some nice corners, which I think is kind of cool. Alright, next up, a cool blog post by Starley, who is he's a big fan of Pomodoro for getting stuff done, and he's talked about this a couple of times before. He had a really good PowerShell script back in the day for setting your Skype for Business presence, and he's had this for a while, and this is a different way of doing it, using the sort of focusing custom Teams present state. But you can only set that via My Analytics, via a calendar event. So you have to do that focus time thing if you want to use the focus state. So he's kind of solved it in a really nice way using Power Automate, using a custom HTTP request trigger, and it kind of it looks for the focus event. It looks for a focus event in the calendar and then manipulates the start and stop time to kind of trick Teams into showing the focusing status. So I think that's really neat. There's a bunch of prerequisites, so look through those. I think it's a really nice idea. It's kind of cool, and if you like the idea of that, if you like this idea of kind of kicking off a job and going into like a flow state, a focusing state for a set period of time, then look at this, because I've started using focus time myself. I find it kind of useful. I like the way it blocks out parts of the calendar. It's kind of debatable how much people respect it, but I find it useful for myself actually in reminding me that I should be doing real work. And by real work I mean not just kind of responding to emails, responding to Teams chats, showing up at meetings, but actually like pushing forward with projects, getting stuff done, contributing and creating. So I find focus time really useful for that. So I'm going to look into this because I think this is cool. I'm going to try and set it up myself and use it for a bit and see if it's good. Yeah, I think it's cool. Congrats, or sort of props to Starday for that. I think it's a really nice tool. It's a really neat kind of workaround. Really, it's a nice little hack. It's annoying that you can't set your own focus state, but this is kind of a nice way of doing it. So I think it's cool. Alright, announcements. Microsoft Graph are deprecating TLS 1.0 and 1.1, but only for US government clouds. So if you're not US government clouds, you can not safely ignore this, but you can ignore this for now. The reason I put it on here, because obviously most people listening and watching to this will not be in the US government cloud, or if they are, they'll probably already be aware of this. but if not, you've got until the beginning of August to sort it out. But the reason I'm mentioning it is where the government cloud goes, I think everyone else will follow. So like the timelines will be different, but I would expect deprecation enforcement of TLS 1.0 and 1.1 to come to the regular kind of the commercial, the worldwide, the public clouds fairly soon. I think they'll probably want to get August out of the way and get the US Gov Cloud done, but then I see them rolling out, across the others. Don't have any inside information about that, but why wouldn't you, right? So I think read the writing on the wall if you're still using TLS 1.0 or 1.1 for any reason, and consider how you might move yourself to 1.2. Alright, the last two things I want to tell you about are kind of more sort of slightly longer form reads, things you may not have been aware of, slightly outside the team's development space, but I think they're interesting, and I think it's good to go and look at different stuff every now and again to remind yourself what's out there. So this is quite developer focused, but not just Teams development, and it's to do with WinUI. So WinUI 3 Preview 2 is now available. So WinUI, or WinUI 3 specifically, is it's the kind of evolution of WinUI and WinUI 2. It's Microsoft's kind of continuous effort to get all the developers on the same UI for getting stuff done. Now they've had a couple of road bumps here, so UWP sort of most notably in the sort of timeline that I'm aware of. So UWP was a bit of a flop, kind of, depends how you measure it, right? Because I think it's really cool, I think it's a great platform and really powerful, but it was not taken up by all the Win32 developers in the way that I think Microsoft wanted it to be, and people didn't port over their applications. So they're trying again, WinUI 3. It's a big expansion of WinUI 2. So it's a kind of end-to-end, fully fledged UI framework. So right now it also does all the Fluent stuff, all the Fluent design stuff. So you'll see it come at speed into all the Office workloads and the Office 365 stuff. So you will see it showing up probably there first. I think unless you're really deep in the sort of hardcore development UI space, that's I think where you'll notice it most is the Fluent framework around Office and around Office extensions. You can use it with .NET, you can use it with C++. The idea is it's the one UI framework to rule them all, and it's supported everywhere. That's the plan. It's still in preview, it's still fairly early days, it's still very much under development. It's one of the key components of what Microsoft are calling Project Reunion, which is this idea of obviously getting everyone together again using the same kind of framework. It'll be interesting to keep an eye on, I think. Maybe more information towards the end of the year, maybe Ignite timeframe, something like maybe build next year. We'll just kind of have to see how it goes, I think. But if you're interested in that, you can get on the preview. You can start looking at the bits today. I think they plan to open source it all as well, because kind of new Microsoft are open first, and so I think that's the plan as well. So if you're really into it, you can have a look at the code and everything and track it that way. But yeah, kind of interesting to see, and good to see, I think, Microsoft not leaving developers behind as well, and really trying to bring everyone up to speed and on the same page. And then finally, I'm going to leave you with something I know very little about, but I thought it was interesting anyway, and that's some news from MS Power User, and it's around a decision that the EU have made, the EU, European Court of Justice have made about the EU-US Privacy Shield decision. The Privacy Shield is the thing that means that it's kind of okay for EU data to move over to the US as long as it's kind of treated the same as if it was in the UK, as in the EU. And I think, from what I understand, the ECJ has kind of said that's not okay, or you kind of can't do that, or it doesn't have the same kind of impact or effect that you thought it did. Anyway, it's interesting to kind of read the responses. Microsoft got a good response to this. It's worth reading. I think it's interesting. I think Microsoft are probably better placed than most because they have, regional data centers. So I think they won't be too impacted by this. It'll be interesting to see how the other big cloud providers fare with these kinds of decisions. But yeah, interesting. Anyway, I'm going to run out of time, so I'm going to wish you a great weekend and week, and I will talk to you again next time.